Okay, so yesterday I put up a video about the fact that there are reports that the government is allocating up to £700 million to encourage more people to buy EVs as we race towards the 2030 deadline, which demands that 80% of all cars sold in the UK must be electric, pure electric, and then the rest allowances for hybrids. Now, yesterday we discussed the fact that what the government has confirmed, didn't confirm at the time the 700 million, but had confirmed the 63 million, which I discussed in yesterday's video, which was earmarked for charging depots, charging infrastructure, cross-pavement charging, stuff like that. The idea is to try and really stimulate sales of EVs at the moment, because of course, according to the ZEV mandate, and if you don't know what that is, look up other videos on this channel, but it's basically a stipulation that increases the percentage every year of how many electric cars the industry needs to sell in the UK. The current target for 2025 is 28%, but we are at 22% at the moment, just under in fact, which is actually a massive improvement. It does signify quite a bit of growth, but it's still way less than 28%. And most of that is driven by fleet sales, which take the advantage of benefit in kind tax breaks to help them to encourage them to buy EVs. Now, what I said at the end of that video yesterday was that it hasn't been confirmed if there is going to be that huge thing, and is that going to be a grant? Is the grant going to be available for people to buy EVs? And what I said yesterday was that they're going to be revealing that information possibly later this week, and as soon as they did that, I would of course do a video update. Turns out they actually revealed that information last night. So here's your video update, and I'll explain everything about what kind of subsidies are available on what kind of cars, to who, from where, right after this.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
Okay, so if you're thinking of buying an EV, the good news is that officially the cost of some electric cars will be reduced by up to £3,750 under grants that are being introduced by the government to encourage drivers to buy more EVs. The discounts will apply, as I suggested yesterday, not to very expensive vehicles, but well below the luxury car ceiling of 40 grand. It will apply to vehicles costing up to £37,000, which actually is a little bit higher than I thought or I anticipated, because I thought they wanted to encourage people that couldn't afford luxury cars or high-end cars to get into EVs, and I thought maybe it might be spread more from say 15 up to 25 grand and maybe 30 grand, but this is 37 grand, so this is up to 37 grand. But here's the thing. It's 3,750. That's the top level that you can get. So up to 3,750. There's essentially two bands. And even within those bands, it sounds like there's some flexibility of how much that discount's going to be. But effectively, there's two bands. So that top band is 3,750, and there's a lower band of £1,500. So it's somewhere between those that you would expect to get. And buyers won't have to apply for this. This will come directly through the dealers. So the manufacturers would have to apply for it, and then they would apply it to the cars that they then sell you. This is part of that, as we suggested, £700 million that's being allocated to boosting EV sales. If we take 65 or whatever away for the infrastructure, then we're talking about 600 plus 650 allegedly, according to some reports, which is going into this grant scheme alone, which will run for 3 years actually. So it's not indefinite, it will run for 3 years. Now, the weird thing is that we're here today on Tuesday. This was revealed last night. Today is Tuesday, and it says, the reports say that effectively it comes into effect tomorrow on Wednesday. And the government is promising a fuss-free scheme for buyers, with car makers and their dealers made to do the paperwork. And you'll thank them for that in a sense, because it is quite complicated. In fact, it's so complicated that even though Wednesday is tomorrow, there are still no details about which cars are going to get what discount, because the criteria is quite complicated. Just to keep you in mind of the fact that there are currently, we're talking an overall car park or vehicle park in the UK of over 40 million vehicles. 1.3 million of those at the moment are actually electric, but we only have about 82,000 chargers, public charging points, if you like. And the government has said that they will have a target of upping that to 300,000 chargers by 2030, hence the allocation of that budget that was described yesterday by Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander. And that's where that 63 million or so is going. And they acknowledge the fact that 40% of households in the UK don't have a driveway. I live in an apartment and flat, but even people live in houses, some of them are terrace houses, and they don't necessarily have a driveway. So if 40% of them don't have a driveway, they're less likely to get a home charger installed, a smart charger installed, which takes advantage of cheaper energy rates and stuff like that. And that's actually the main incentive sometimes for buying an EV, because it will cost you next to nothing to actually run on a daily basis. And 25 million, as I said, of that is going towards these cross-pavement things where I think they'll carve gullies into the pavement to run a cable across to some kind of mount, I suppose, where you can charge your car. Now, back to these grants that are coming for the cars, which will basically discount the price of brand new cars. I hope you're sitting down for this, because this is where it gets really complicated, right? The grant amounts are based on sustainability criteria, with car makers having to commit to a science-based target, SBT, on emissions. An SBT is a company's specific goal to cut greenhouse gas emissions in line with the aim to reduce global warming, or to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees and well below the 2 degrees centigrade, as outlined by the Paris Agreement on climate change, right? Now, the grant amounts will depend on each manufacturer's sustainability criteria. So it's not just even the car, it's the manufacturer. Basically, it's the manufacturer's behavior in terms of sustainability that actually impacts how much of a discount they're allowed to get or to offer on their cars benefiting from government grants. Cars from manufacturers in Band 1 will receive up to £3,750, as we've said, and Band 2 will get up to £1,500. But manufacturers at the moment, and some people have even asked manufacturers, and they've just turned around and said, look, we don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know what kind of discounts we can offer, because it's just not clear to us yet. So they have to go through the application process. So according to the government, I told you this was going to get complicated. According to the government, these are the rules that will apply through this application process that the manufacturers or the dealers have to submit in order to get the grants to discount their cars, in order to provide that discount to you, the consumer, if you're thinking of buying an EV, brand new one that is. Manufacturers will need to demonstrate a vehicle meets minimum technical requirements and offers a suitable warranty to give drivers confidence. Okay. Manufacturers will have to submit details about the manufacturing of their vehicles, which will be used to assess sustainability of manufacturing and therefore the grant amount. To qualify for any level of the grant, a manufacturer has to have a net zero target. Wow, so if they don't have any intention of being a net zero company, they won't get the grant at all. Wow. Okay, that's certainly going to tell us which manufacturers are committed to that or not, isn't it? If they do, get a grant, that is, whether and how much funding a vehicle receives is based on the carbon emissions of the electricity grid in the country or countries of key production stages. How the heck are they going to find that out and establish that? I mean, the car is based on components from a number of different places. The engine could be from somewhere else, the gearbox from somewhere else, the body from somewhere else, the chassis from somewhere else, the brakes from somewhere else. How are they going to figure out how much of that, or where those things come from, which country, and how green is their energy supply in that country? But it's going to be a combination of all of those that is then going to work out how much grant they can have. Wowzers. This is going to take some while to sort out, let's be honest. The final environmental score assigned to each vehicle model reflects 2 stages of vehicle production. Vehicle assembly, defined as the point at which the powertrain is attached to the chassis, and battery production, defined as the location where active electrode materials are encased together, which in most cases is going to be China, because that's where all the batteries are coming from. So again, they're going to have to look at the energy provision in China, or the electricity provision in China, to see how green that is. This is a bit bonkers. I mean, thank God, like, consumers don't have to do this, manufacturers have to do this. To create the final score, a weighting of 70% is applied to the assessment of CO2 from battery production, and 30% is applied to the assessment of vehicle assembly emissions. So not only we have to consider where the battery comes from China, but 70% of the weighting of the scoring will be down to where that battery comes from, which they're all coming from China. So I mean, that's kind of crazy. Anyway, the cleanest vehicles, the cleanest of these vehicles will receive the top grant of 3,750. The next most clean will be 1,500. So from there, it seems to suggest that there will be just two bands and then just two categories. Although in other places, they have used words such as up to. So I don't know if there's some variation or variance within those bands available. And vehicles or manufacturers that don't meet these requirements, they won't get a grant. Hope you're enjoying this video. Make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe if you're not already doing so. And support independent automotive journalism channels like mine. You can do that at patreon.com, coffee.com, or taking out a subscription right here on YouTube. Or you know what, better still, you can go and buy my books. I've got 3 books out now. They're all on Amazon. They're all available to buy. More details on this are in the description, but buying any of these books will certainly help. Thanks so much for watching. But like I said, you know, we will find out soon. When will we find out? Well, it's going to take a while. The government is set to update information on the grants available to specific vehicles on its website over the coming weeks. So there's going to be a website. If I had the link, I'd put it below. If I find the link, I'll put it in the description. There's going to be a website, and they'll update all the details there. With eligible car makers are able to apply for funding from Wednesday. So basically, from tomorrow, the manufacturers and dealers are able to submit their applications, and they'll get the grants on a first come, first served basis. So manufacturers better get their skates in and get all this data together. Don't know how they're going to do that, but good luck to them. It's not yet known how long it will take for these applications to be approved. But a digital system for manufacturers to log eligible vehicles won't actually even be open until 11th of August. Okay, so this is going to take some time. Grants may be available before that date for vehicles that have already been approved, though. I don't know how that even works. If you can't even log the vehicles, I suppose if you can send in your applications from tomorrow, and if they get approved very quickly on that first come, first served basis, but they won't go onto the website because the eligible vehicles won't be logged onto there until 11th August. I don't know how that works. But also, considering how much data there is and how much then double checking will have to take place, I don't think these applications are going to be approved that quickly. Anyway, but keep in mind also that there is a 3-year thing for this. So we're talking, this grants will probably be available to probably 2028, maybe 2029. This is 1 or 2 years short of that 2030 deadline. As I said yesterday, you may be thinking, why just short of the 2030 deadline when actually that's when they wanted, because they're expecting 80% of cars to be electric by 2030 anyway. And the idea of grants and things like this is to motivate people to move to electric and to get them into the habit of buying electric cars anyway, so that, you know, they don't have to continue doing that. Anyone who bought an EV before the grants are approved will not be eligible for the grant to be issued retrospectively. So this means there is some concern that right now EV sales might actually completely stall for the remaining of July and part of August, if not all of August. EV sales might completely stop, because people might just stay their hand and go, well, wait a minute, I need to find out if there's going to be a grant on this car. If there's going to be a grant on this car, then I might as well wait until that is formally announced or formally offered by the dealer. And of course, this is going to cause a problem with the market. It's going to cause a problem with the cash flow and the flow of vehicles into the market. And of course, this situation is also, these discounting could potentially hit the values of the used cars even more than they already are, with used EVs losing up to 50% in the first year. However, I think it might be worth actually looking at the market right now. If you're thinking of buying an EV, look at what's available right now, because now that we know that there's going to be these 2 levels, 3,750 and 1,500, and it's probably going to be very unlikely that manufacturers are going to achieve that 3,750 because of these strict criteria. So more likely we're talking on £1,500 where they will apply. But the reality is that there's already discounting on EVs happening right now. So keep that in mind. Even before these grants come along, the fact is that over the last year or so, In fact, as early as I think beginning of last year, when Tesla first started the price war, there has been heavy discounting. In fact, UK brands spent around £6.5 billion in EV discounts since 2024, and that's this government's £650 million is nothing compared to £6.5 billion that the manufacturers themselves have already offered in terms of discounting their product, and they've had deals such as 12 to 28%. Falling off the list, but I think the usual amount of 15 to 20% on many cars you will have seen. So for example, on the 30k on the 30k EV, you're already talking a discount of $6 grand. So $6 grand is substantially more than 3,750, never mind the 1,500 that the government will offer. So what I'm saying here is that actually, if you are thinking of buying an EV and you're thinking, oh no, I'll wait now until we find out what these grants are, you might want to check the market right now, even if you do want to wait until the grants happen, because the scenario could well be that a manufacturer could currently be offering, say, $4 grand off their car, and then when the grant kicks in, then they say, well, okay, we're getting a grant, so we're offering £1,500 off the car. So you go and they go, hey, we got a grant, £1,500. You're feeling happy, but in fact, you've lost out £2,500 because previously they were already offering $4 grand, but they might get rid of that $4 grand because the perception of there being a government discount might be enough to lure customers in, and manufacturers and dealers might decide, well, we don't need to offer that discount that we were already offering. We'll just offer the government what government's giving us to give you as a discount off the car. The good manufacturers and good dealers will probably offer both. So they'll probably go, okay, well, we already discounted $3 grand, $4 grand, whatever, plus we'll add on the 1,500 that the government is giving you, so there's your discount total. So that's where you might want to hold on. But I think certainly you should do your research to find out what kind of discounts are already available now, because that's real money that's coming off right now on these cars, rather than the anticipation of maybe £1,500 and possibly £3,750 if you're looking for getting an EV within the next few months. On the other hand, like I said, if there's a good company, a good dealer, a good manufacturer, they might offer both anyway, in which case, yes, you should wait. But that is, I would say it's a little bit of a tricky gamble. And I think that if you're thinking about buying a car, you should probably start having that conversation with your local dealer right now and try to read between the lines and figure out what they're going to do. So shop around now would be my advice to you. Let me know what you think of this. Do you think this is fair? Because I know a lot of people out there will be like, well, why is the government giving £650 million or £700 million in total to buyers of EV or to encourage EV sales? For a lot of people, they'll be like, well, we don't even believe in EVs and we don't like them and we don't think people should have them. We don't think people should be forced to have them. Now, I'm always of the opinion that people should not be forced to buy something, but if something suits their needs and their requirements, and as I have stated on many, many occasions, for many people, EVs are just the right car, but for some people, they've just been proven to be too expensive right now. So maybe this is just what they've been looking for. In any case, it's interesting. It'll be fun to see how this plays out, and I will keep on viewing it, monitoring it, and updating you as and when I get any more information. Certainly, once we start to find out who's getting the grants and how much they are, once I start to figure that out, then I will probably do another video on that. So make sure that you hit like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you turn your notifications on. Keep in mind that if you turn your notifications on here on YouTube, unless you turn them on your phone settings, then you still won't get notifications. That's how it actually works. So you have to make sure you do that, and you have to make sure that you keep engaging, like, sharing, commenting with the content, or you won't see my content. YouTube won't send it to you. That's how it works. So anyway, there it is. That's what's going on. Let me know what you think of that, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.